Or
No. I mean, no.
okay.
Because you look kind of funny on screen if you have them in, so.
Oh, right, because you're not going to show you.
Right. I know. I have the best part. I can totally make a mistake.
Do I look all right? My office,
So can you?
it's okay. All right.
Yeah. No, you look great.
Thanks.
Is that your home office or?
Yeah, it's my only office.
Oh, okay. Do you still work for the Roanoke Times?
No, I quit in May after I sold my
Okay.
second book proposal.
Oh, great. Okay.
They were through giving me leaves of absence.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the second book in a little bit, but we'll
Okay.
just talk for about 15 or 20 minutes and just kind of basic questions about the book and how you got it done. And then we will edit that down to about 3 or 4 minutes and run it on December 9th.
Great. And thank you for selecting the book. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, you did a great job with it. So, and it was nice to see it do so well, especially for a debut.
Yeah, yeah, it was really surprising. I had read it so many times, and I just was worried that it was boring. So I'm glad to hear people don't think it's boring.
Yeah. No, it's a great story.
Hey.
So, it sounds to me like we have sort of the classic, reporter story here where you heard a great quote and you pursued the story until you got it. Is that basically the case with this one?
That's actually, you're the first person that said you heard a great quote and you pursued it. Do you know what the great quote is?
Yes, about the communist and.
Yes, but you're the only one that's picked up on that. Like, yeah, because I thought he would be a great story. I mean, just first of all, like everybody else closed their furniture factory, he kept his open. That's always a good story, the person who does the counterintuitive thing. I mean, almost always, especially if how he did it is super interesting. Sorry, the dog just walked in. So when I heard about him and how he had gone all the way to China and taken on Chinese imports in a court of international trade from Galex, Virginia, which is really well known for bluegrass and barbecue and defunct furniture factories, I mean, not much else, I thought, oh, I've got to go meet that man. And then the thing that really put me over the edge was when I heard he was just so bold as to say things like, the effing Chi-Coms aren't going to tell me how to make furniture. I never actually heard him say that. But, you know, that was the line that kind of made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And then when I did meet him in person, I mean, he's got a million of those. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I've seen you talk about the fact that you two, John Bassett and you, are kind of different people. Tell me about that journalistic relationship. I mean, did you just kind of do that journalist thing where you stick around until they get tired of you and start talking to you, or how did that relationship evolve?
Sure. Well, the first time I went there, I had been told to dress down and wear my jeans and shoes that were, you know, good because I'd be in and out of the factory, and, you know, you don't want something like falling on you. So I took that to heart, and I showed up in my jeans, and my hair was long at the time. I had it back in the ponytail, and I could see it when he saw me. He was thinking, why has the newspaper sent this damn hippie down here to interview me? And he was going to give me like 10 minutes. But when we got in his conference room, and I was totally prepared because I knew it was going to be a real good story because I had done a lot of pre-interviews. I'd spent several days in the Virginian room of our downtown library, like kind of tracing the whole history of furniture evolution in Virginia and North Carolina through his grandfather. And so I saw that not only had he started Bassett Furniture, but he had also started Stanley and Vaughn Bassett and Hooker, and it was almost too good to be true kind of story that you could tell the economic history of this region and by extension the whole country through this one family. And then when globalization hit, his the people that were still running Bassett, his nephew, went a totally different way than he went, and there was this family feud that tied it together, and you almost, like I said, you couldn't make it up because it was just all right there. I just had to convince him that, he had a story to tell, and he likes to tell his story, and I think he was kind of like surprised that I noticed that he had done it. And he's really great to interview. He's just got a million stories, and just sort of like pulling the details, it can be a problem with him because he's such a good speaker and he's so used to dominating the conversation. So I probably talked to him 700 times on the telephone alone. But a lot of it is like me trying to ask the question a different way to get him not to tell me the same thing he told me the last time.
Right. And so how did that work for him and his company to go the counterintuitive route, as you called it? Did everything work out okay?
Yeah, so he filed, in 2003, he filed what was then the world's largest anti-dumping petition against China. And it went to the International Trade Commission in 2005, and the domestic manufacturers, led by him, and there were some other companies too, but he was really the leader of it. They won that case 6-0, and then again in 2010 they won it. And what they won was duties being assessed to the factories that were deemed to be cheating or dumping is the phrase that's used, and that means they're illegally, according to WTO rules, selling the furniture for the less than it even costs them to make it. And you're not supposed to do that. And so he called them on it. He proved that they were doing it. And then by winning the case, duties were then assessed. And for several years, those duties went directly to the domestic manufacturers. So he actually won millions that he then plowed right back into his factory to kind of help him compete with the Asian competitors.
Yeah. One of the interesting things here is that you had been a reporter for the newspaper in Roanoke, and you knew the area, and you knew what Bassett meant, but I'm not sure that you were a business writer and that you knew about economic theory. And it looks like you had to tackle some of that stuff to be able to write the book. Is that true? And did you enjoy that?
It was work. It was really hard work. I'm not a business writer, and suddenly, I'm reading Thomas Friedman, and I'm reading about the Tariff Act of 1930, and I'm interviewing economists and trade lawyers who know so much about this stuff they have a hard time explaining it. I had to say to one of them, "Tell it to me like I'm a third grader," and then I just had to keep going over and over and talking to different people. And then it's a super controversial thing what he did. So then I had to talk to the other side. And then I go back, just kind of take them back and forth until I really understood it in a way from all points of view. And then ultimately I went to Indonesia to see where a lot of that furniture is now being made. Because I thought that would really kind of draw the full circle of globalization. And there had been that really poignant moment early on in my reporting when a displaced worker from Stanley Furniture had invited me. She said, "I wish you'd go. I want to know what it looks like. I want to see the people that took my jobs." And she didn't want to go, but she wanted me to go and tell her what it looked like and explain to her why it is we can't make it here anymore. And so that really, I had to explain to myself first, because you're right, I'm not a business reporter. So I started reading The Economist and, just trying to pick up as much as I could. And when I finished my first draft, I sent it for, just like for readers to give me some feedback on the economics. So I found some business professors and economists to read it, and people I knew who didn't really agree with what he had done as an economic tool. And because I wanted that feedback, because I knew I didn't want to just be in his pocket for the book.
Yeah. But the fascinating thing about you having gone to Indonesia, and this is what I think in America we're so concerned with our jobs being taken. I mean, they feel the same way, right? That they feel that people in Africa might be able to do the work cheaper than them. So,
right, the speed of globalization has really, gone up, and so they see that they took the jobs away from China and Indonesia, and Vietnam to some extent as their wages went up, and now a lot of most furniture making of the furniture we see out in the stores is from Vietnam or Indonesia, and they see that trend happening, and they see their wages going up. I mean, they've gone up a lot in Indonesia in just the last couple of years. And when I sort of casually tossed out, I was interviewing some workers there, and I said, do you think about people like Wanda Purdue back in Stanleytown, Virginia? And they kind of giggled and said no. And that's when they said, but we do think about the people who are going to replace us, and they know it's coming. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. As I said earlier, it was really nice for those of us in the book business who watch this kind of thing to see a debut book that seemed to, sell well, like pretty soon, as I recall. And I wondered what you think. What is it about the book that resonated so well with readers?
Yeah, I like to say it's the book you can give your mom and she'll understand why it is the town that she grew up in perhaps looks the way it does now, because to me it helped me explain it. And I think there's so many people who have connections with these towns that have been hit hard by globalization, and so many people's parents or grandparents worked in factories, and I get all kinds of requests at my reading. Will you sign this book for my dad? Will you write Merry Christmas, Uncle George? And it's really cool. And people will come up and share these stories about growing up in a factory town and what it was like when, for instance, some of those factories started burning in Bassett. I was at Hollins University giving a talk there, and there was a student who had grown up in Bassett. And I said, really? She said, yeah, my mom worked at Bassett Superior Lines, and the day that plant burned down, it was actually late at night when it caught fire, or it was late at night when she got the phone call from her mom, and she said, the whole world's on fire. And, like what's the world coming to? The world's ending kind of thing. And that was just such a moment for this young woman who's now trying to kind of write her own story. And she, I'm hearing that it's, the people feel honored by it, that a lot of these towns have been forgotten. If you live in a big city, you probably don't even see the impact of globalization because it's spread out. But in a place like Martinsville or Bassett or even Galax, I mean, you can drive through and you can see it. It's really palpable, especially in Bassett, where all the factories have closed, every single one. And people have to pull their money to pay for the street lights at night. And the barber has to open a shop at 5 a.m. because people who do work have to drive outside of the county for work now. And it's way more palpable there.
Yeah. So the $64,000 question, how does John Bassett feel about it now that it's out in the world? Do you know?
Oh, I know. I think he's excited. He gave a talk in Westchester County on Thursday night to 680 people who were there for some conference. He goes, it was Wall Street guys. And they weren't so sure they wanted to hear what I had to say. But he got a standing ovation, or his son corrected later, a partial standing ovation. Anyways, he got a great reception on his story. And he's trying to infuse business in America with his fighting spirit. And I think he's really surprised by the reaction that, well, first of all, he didn't think I could sell a book proposal. He was like, sure, you can write a book proposal. I could tell he didn't think I would do it, and then I did it. And, you asked about the difference between us. I think we've both been sort of underestimated in this whole game of life. And so he's gotten a lot of attention, and hopefully, I know he hopes that translates to furniture sales. So he's no dummy.
Yeah, but that's not your job.
That's not my job at all. But if it helps keep those factory workers in Galax employed, I'm I can't be against it. I know those
Right,
people
right.
now. I
Yeah,
see like the connection between how we spend our money and people's lives, which in a way that I didn't see before I wrote this book.
yeah.
You're frozen. I can't hear you now. Hmm.
You there?
Yeah, now I can hear you, but you're still frozen. Can you?
Okay, great. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
you're moving,
Good.
so that's good.
Yeah.
Um, did you get the question then?
No. Sorry.
Okay. So it was just that you've had a big success with your first book. What is next?
What is my next book?
Yeah,
Um. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure you could hear me, but you can hear me okay? Because you're
yeah.
coming. Okay. So my next book is called True Vine, which is the name of a very tiny rural crossroads um, in Franklin County, Virginia, which is halfway between where I live in Roanoke and Henry County, which is where most of Factory Men's set. And it's about race and greed and what passed for entertainment in the Jim Crow South and everywhere in America, which is to say the circus. And it's a very different kind of book. It begins with a crime in Truvine around the turn of the last century. These two albino African American boys were kidnapped and they were sold to the circus. And and their mother searched for them for a number of years and risked her life really to get their freedom back. So it's requiring quite a deep dive of research and but it's a great story. It's got all the elements, and you can learn a lot about just America in general by studying what its favorite pastime was for so long.
Yeah. Well, great. I think we got what we need, and again, you did a great job with this first one, and we're looking forward to the next one.
Oh, thanks so much, Arden. I really appreciate it, and thanks again to whoever picked me for the list. But it's really great, and the review was great when it came out. And like I said, I didn't know if anybody would find it remotely interesting. So those early reviews meant a ton.
Oh, good. Well,
You know?
I'm glad it helped.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, and have a
Okay.
great Thanksgiving.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
you too. Bye-bye.